Hey, Dustin.
Oh, hello. I'm your host, Dustin Scott. We're here on another episode of Between Two Quarantines. I'm here with my guest.
Have you ever talked to a tree before?
A what?
You ever talked to a tree?
Tree?
I have.
Really?
Yeah.
What was that like?
You ever licked avocado off a wall?
Can't say that I have.
Yeah. You never been locked in a closet, licked avocado off the wall?
I'm not sure what's happening here. Did you bring something to share with our guests? So in our last episode, we were in Colossians 3. And Paul actually says this kind of strange thing, which doesn't seem like it applies to our lives. And anyway, he says in verse 22 in chapter 3, "Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it, not only when their eye is on you, to curry their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord." That seems like kind of a strange passage, especially for us in this season when we're in quarantine, surviving our families. And especially as we're beginning to feel fatigue, the novelty of playing video games and watching movies is over now. And you kind of wonder, what does this passage have to do with me? And it even gets a little bit spooky because at the end in verse 25 it says, "Anyone who does wrong will be repaid for their wrongs, and there's no favoritism." So often we think of that as being God punishing those who do wrong. Did you get punished a lot in the military?
No comment.
But when you read the Greek, it actually says you'll be released unto the consequences of your actions. And that there's no favoritism means God's not going to come and save you from the consequences. That doesn't mean He's punishing you. Doesn't mean He's mad at you. Doesn't mean He's out to get you. And why I think this message about slaves is so significant is there's this book called Philemon, and Paul is almost referencing it here in the book of Colossians. And it's written to a slave and a slave master. Now I hope our guest here today doesn't actively own any slaves.
Define slaves.
And it's written to this slave and this slave master. And for much of church history, scholars have perceived this as being about a slave who ran away. That this slave by the name of Onesimus just is a fugitive of the law. He couldn't handle Philemon anymore, so he took off, and he's asking Paul to convince Philemon to set him free. But there's a lot of work being done in modern Bible study, which is kind of showing a different interpretation of that. Because a lot of scholars think that Onesimus was actually sent by Philemon to either deliver a message or help Paul with some task. But Onesimus has a secret. And his secret is this: he royally messed something up at home. And that even comes through in the words of Paul when Paul says, "If Onesimus has made a mistake that has cost you money, charge it to my account." And that doesn't really bring the idea of a slave who ran away. It more brings the idea of a slave or an employee who made a mistake. And Onesimus is cruising off to Paul, begging Paul, "Hey, can you kind of be the intermediary here? Can you help Philemon to get off my back? Can you help me?" And in a way that could be frustrating to us. I don't know if any of you here have ever felt like one of your siblings is like a snitch, like you all are kind of messing around, maybe doing something stupid. Then your youngest sibling just takes off and tells your parents. It's kind of what Onesimus is doing here. He is running to Paul to fix something, which is actually a relationship problem between him and Philemon. But the interesting thing is we expect Paul to be like, "Shut up, Onesimus, go home, let Philemon really take it out on you, you deserve it." But Paul actually says, "Be gracious." And he even ends the whole book by saying, "I expect you to do these things and much more," meaning that not only is Paul saying be kind to Onesimus, but I actually want you to set them free. That's crazy. What if your friend snitched you out? You know, you were out jumping off the trampoline, you know, trying to jump off the side of the house onto the trampoline. Your youngest kid runs into the house, snitches on you, mom's mad. And suddenly, your youngest sibling gets a bowl of ice cream or gets to watch their favorite movie. You'll be like, that's unfair. That's stupid. Why is she getting off so easy? But Paul is saying it's not about that. It's not about fairness. It's not about justice. It's about love and right relationship. So if any of you are getting guacamole catapulted onto your face this season, I want you to know that the right response is forgiveness. You ever been hit by a bike before?